Jupiter, the planet of luck, growth, expansion, and abundance, is going to be changing sign. Now, it's been in Aries since December 20th of 2022, and then it's going to move into Taurus on May 16th of this year, and it's going to stay in that sign until May 25th of next year of 2024. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about what this transit is about and what are some of the aspects that are really important and apparent that will be going on, because this is huge. And in whatever area of your life that Jupiter in Taurus is in your chart, if you look to what house Taurus is in your chart, then that may be important. Or if you have any personal planets in the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, then that's also huge, because Jupiter is going to transit those particular planets. And if you also have planets in the earth signs, Taurus, Libra, and Capricorn, then Jupiter is going to be coming and bringing blessings and growth in those areas and with those planets, and also the points as well, which also include the angles, the midheaven or ascendant. But so anyway, getting into this energy. So Jupiter's themes, as I said, it's known as the Great Beneficent Astrology. It's about, you taking, experiencing pleasure and joy in your life, and growing, and not through the hard knocks, hard lessons of life, like Saturn, which is a malefic energy, is more about traveling, expanding your horizons, and gaining a lot of wisdom, on your path. And so Jupiter brings blessings and rewards. And so, often with Jupiterian energy, we're not working so hard, and we're not grounding the goals and the things that we want to achieve into practical reality, which is something that Jupiter and Taurus is going to help with, because Taurus is an earth sign and it likes to work towards things and build, up a building from the, very bottom of it to the, to the top of the building. So it's going to be helping us to, slow down and take those steps to get there. And I have Jupiter in an earth sign. And, Jupiter is really positive because it brings a faith and an optimism. But in earth, we are, getting things done. We're getting practical. We're materializing our, goals. We're really putting the work in. And bringing things down to form and truth and essence. So, Jupiter in the sign of Taurus, first of all, is about security and stability, because Taurus is symbolized by the bull, which likes its, creature comforts. And if you've ever read the story Ferdinand, then I'm sure that and in the story Ferdinand, there's also an animation based off of it. Is about a bull who is sort of, the black sheep in comparison to all the other bulls, whereas all the other bulls want to fight and want to be, really courageous and, take one another down. Ferdinand liked to sit and smell the roses and relax. And Taurus is the sign that's, symbolized by the bull. So those, creature comforts, the simple pleasures that'll always be there, are super important to Taurus, and the physical attachments that are important. And if you mess with or irritate or disturb the peace and security of a bull. And if you bother it or get it super mad, then watch out, because it's going to get up and stomp and get really just rage and a kind of fury that is really different than any other time, because Taurus likes things to be very peaceful and beautiful and calm and serene, and there's a delicious energy, likes the pleasures of life. But once that peace is disturbed, and once the Taurus gets pushed enough, then watch out, because it could be intense. And so Taurus is a fixed earth sign, so it likes to hold on to the material things, and it likes to establish its security. What is here now, like the trees, the flowers, plants, so many things from the earth that are here and they're not going to leave. It is about what is here and now. And it's also about resources. On the mundane level, it rules agriculture and the resources of the earth, particularly nature, and in the human and man-made form, money. Jupiter and Taurus can bring about, we're already experiencing inflation with prices rising. And could Jupiter, which expands things and blows something up, both the positive and negative traits of a sign, could Jupiter and Taurus make the prices skyrocket even higher, and things being more expensive? But the financial departments, and you making your money, earning your money, this is a wonderful time to go and do the things that you love, and put yourself in positions that are that will pay you a good and reasonable or huge amount of money. So, getting back to the bit about, stability and security, Taurus again likes its creature comforts, and is about the warmth of the fire. It's about the beautiful sunshine, the trees, the green grass, the flowers. It's about slowing down. And so, having things being routine. So where can you establish the stability of, a day where you get up, I'm going to do this, and I have this routine, or I have this steady job that pays well, that is right for me, and this is how I'm going to keep things, because Taurus doesn't want to change it up very easily. So, the stability of that, and just the stability from, enjoying a nice meal or time with family or your home life. And so, stability and security, finding the security not only from the outside, the physical arena, the material arena, but also, your inner peace and inner security, your sort of inner resources coming, home inside yourself, all that kind of thing. Being in the present moment's another theme with Jupiter and Taurus. Now it's a wonderful time to appreciate all of what we have in our lives and cultivate gratitude and appreciation for what we can engage with the five senses, and being present and making decisions and living in the here and now, because that's where our power lies. We can find peace, and we can come back to this place of being here and now, that you can replenish, that you can slow down, that you can center yourself, that you can ground, that you can have your mind at the right place, that you can make more logical decisions when you are here and now, and meditations that help with groundedness and being here and now, And presence is, huge to do at this time because it ultimately comes down to presence with Jupiter and Taurus. The saying goes that, the past is history, tomorrow is a mystery, the past is history, or something like that. Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery. Um, but, um, but, I think now is a gift from God, which is why they call it the present, or something like that. But, that whole thing. And when you're receiving presents for, birthday or, Christmas or something like that, you're receiving it in the presence. And there's so many gifts that are offered to you, at your disposal. And there's so much that you have to be thankful for. And it doesn't have to be just, in the material world. They say that money can't buy happiness. And so you can tap into the simple things, the things that'll always be there. And tap into maybe even the divine and, your spiritual connection, even, going there. Engaging with the five senses, planting, cooking, listening to music, all those activities are great to do at this particular time. The next big piece of this is self-love, self-worth, and value. Knowing that you are worthy and you are deserving of simple pleasures. You're deserving to go out and do something that is in alignment with what you value. Because when you do what is in alignment with what you value, and you you like what you're doing and you value what you're doing and you put that out there, then you're going to find that rewards come and luck comes, and you feel better, and you're sort of giving and receiving. What you put out comes back, so positive karma. What you put in, you get back, or you get out. So all of that is, important to, consider. And, what do you value? Who do you value? What do you love? What's most important to you? And what do you find pleasure in during this time? Because there's, Jupiter is like, it's about joviality. It's the party energy. It's an indulgent energy. So you can, you know, indulge in food or listening to music. Of course, knowing when to, moderate, the amounts of, how much pleasure that you're engaging in. But with an earth energy, with Taurus, that is easier to, moderate. With Sagittarius, it's a very carefree energy, wants to make the most of this life, wants to live the most fulfilling and, huge life possible. And it is related to overindulging, eating a lot of food, traveling all kinds of places. And so, and doing what's true to you, being true to yourself. And also, as I said again, expansion with your finances, real estate, all those kind of areas in the, financial economy will be, this expansion and growth, and more of a spotlight and a flashlight sort of, that it will shine down on those areas more probably during this time. Another key piece with this is materializing your desires and moving in a slow and steady direction to get there. Taurus does not want to push it, doesn't want to rush. And there was this, woman that I was listening to who has these great tips for, for pushing yourself to get things done and taking action towards what it is that you want and what it is that you, need to achieve. But I think that, with certain things you can push yourself, but what about enjoying the process? What about being present? What about the experience of it? What about the reality of the fact that, be true to yourself. We're humans, we're human beings, not human doings. What about acknowledging the feminine perspective? And what about slowing down, really putting in the quality, allowing yourself that time to not push yourself and not be so determined to get that done that you lose the journey of whatever it is that you are achieving, and you're getting so wrapped up at the end goal that you're forgetting about the experience. So yes, get yourself motivated to do the things that you need to do, because Taurus likes to stay the course, and it's a super fixed and determined sign, and is super loyal and committed to a goal. But it takes its time. Um, I wonder if Taurus is the most compatible with deadlines. So, take your time with, getting things done. And even if it's really mundane and difficult, can you find the value and pleasure in that moment when it, feels kind of, monotonous, and, things are taking slower than they should? Again, it goes back to that present moment piece. So enjoying the process. So moving slow and steady wins the race. You're not going to build Rome or build a building overnight. It does take time to build up those layers as brick by brick. And with that comes patience. A wonderful time to cultivate patience as well. A great time to think about your long-term goals, your long-term commitments, and really, put your focus on those types of things, in those areas of your life. Um, and taking ideas and grounding them into reality, and manifesting them where are the foundations, where is the physical security, where is the comfort, where is the reality of enjoying the process, while you're doing it, which could be just living and, waking up and doing the things that you usually do, getting outside in nature, eating, spending time with family. You're doing that while you are achieving your goals, and it isn't only about achieving your goals. It's also the life experience that you have while and around achieving that goal. Um, and utilizing our resources, really, really looking to our resources that we have, and enjoying life's simple pleasures. That is ultimately what it comes down to. Now, the downside of Jupiter, because it can also expand negative traits, could be really stubborn, very rigid, because Taurus likes to hold on to things. It doesn't like change, and it can be pretty fixed. And where we are too comfortable. This is not necessarily a karmic lesson that we've been learning while the North Node has been in Taurus. I think that that's more because, when the South Node was in Taurus and the North Node was in Scorpio back in 2013, from August 27th, 2012 through February 23rd of 2014, that was the frame of time where we were looking at where we're too, stuck in our ways, too comfortable, where we need to take a risk, where we need to let go, where we are so attached to a certain way of doing things that we're not receiving from the outside world. We're not merging, we're not transforming, we're not seeing the nuances and the depth and the shades of gray in our lives. So that's, what that's about. So it can be, getting too comfortable. And, this particular transit, is going to be contradictory to this, and I'm going to get into why. So, acknowledging where we're too stuck, where we need to change, and where we need to be flexible and adaptable, and where we need to let go of something that may not work out for us, and not be so attached to a certain way of being. In terms of the industries that could benefit from this transit the most is the food industries, the art industries, the clothing industries, also because Taurus rules, again, the five senses, and it rules the fashion and the clothes that you put on your body and what you decorate your life with and what you have around you, of what it shows, what you value. And this is where you can step up to the plate and really take control of your life. So, getting into the aspects. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty here, but I am going to go over a couple of key things, a couple of key points. So, Jupiter is going to be conjuncting the North Node in early Taurus on June 1st, 2023. It's not going to repeat itself again. And this deals with making contact with people who will help us, who will herald us and move us into what we want to, achieve, our desires, our destiny, of where we can find greater happiness and fulfillment in this lifetime. And through these situations and through these people, we can really grow and evolve in huge ways. And Jupiter energy is about positive thinking and beliefs. It's about your beliefs and really examining your beliefs. And if they're limiting or if they're, super negative and pessimistic. So we can examine and refine our beliefs and have a more positive and optimistic and joyful outlook on our lives. And we can also gain perspective over situations with the Jupiter energy conjuncting the North Node, and faith in things, happening and things becoming better, and faith in what we want in our lives, may increase and, allow it to increase, allow the faith to increase. And then what's really, really special is on April 21st of 2024, we have something really rare, and that is Jupiter meeting up with Uranus and Taurus. And Uranus is going to be in Taurus while Jupiter is in Taurus. And so it plays a really huge and unique role in this transit. And this deals with, because Uranus is the planet of shocks and, revelations, revolutions. It deals with flashes of insight. This is where surprises may come about, things that are unexpected and out of the blue. You may feel a sudden need for freedom and liberation during this time, where luck and opportunities open up for you when it comes to expressing yourself, being true to yourself, being unique, going out of the box and, being free and seizing new opportunities that are with Taurus in alignment with your values. And the strong need for independence here comes in as well. So there's great opportunities again for perspective, viewing a perspective, having a different outlook at the world and your life. So opportunities for perspective and higher learning, learning new things, higher education, religion, philosophy, deeper, higher, more, huge, greater subjects, culture, history, for, travel, all those great things are wonderful to do during your Jupiter return. If you were born when Jupiter was in Taurus, and you're going to be experiencing a Jupiter return, which is a really lucky and, abundant time period in your life. And so breaking out of the mold, breaking out of the humdrum and the mundane, even though Taurus kind of does respond to those areas and, seeing the treasures and the gold and the beauty and what's, available to you and the gifts of the mundane, reality. Uranus doesn't like what is, conventional, boring, wants to get out of the box and do something unconventional. So, and new and radical, and Uranus is also about innovation. So, that's just a little general synopsis of that aspect. And I hope that this Jupiter transit blesses you. And I'm going to be doing another video for those of you watching this in 2023. Jupiter and Taurus at the ingress is not going to come in on the highest, easiest note. It may be very challenging because Jupiter and Taurus is going to be involved in a grand fixed cross that is going to be in the middle of May alongside the new moon in Taurus on May 19th. I'll do another video about that and how Jupiter and Taurus is, playing a role with the fixed grand cross, and I'll break it down. And so look forward to that, and I hope that you enjoy. Bye for now.